some people want David Moyes out. I absolutely get it. I really do. Nobody's been more frustrated than me with the mainstream media over the past week or two, who've basically belittled West Ham fans for having a valid opinion about David Moyes. They're at it again, the mainstream media, by the way, saying, oh, look, I knew they'd do it. Look, you've just thrashed Brentford. See, what's your problem? But the fact of the matter is, we very, very rarely play. West Ham don't, in the way that we played against Brentford. That wasn't the norm. That was the exception to the rule. It really was. However, some people are so desperate to get David Moyes out, they'll do anything and lie, basically. Lies get made up about David Moyes. And unfortunately, it sort of perpetuates a lot of the anger that's in the fan base anyway. There's already enough anger in the fan base. There really is. We're an agitated, upset group at the moment. And I think it all started with a stadium move. I'm not going to get into all that at the moment, all right? There is a massive divide in the fan base. Some who want David Moyes, some who don't want David Moyes. For me, I think it's a really good opportunity for a clean slate to get somebody else in. However, just because I think that, it doesn't mean that I'm going to lie about him and that I'm going to perpetuate the lies. Look, this has come from a Twitter account. I've got to say, I don't know it. I don't know the Twitter account. I don't know the person who's got the Twitter account. I don't even go on it. I say Twitter. It might not be. It could be Instagram or something like that. I don't know. I don't know my way around this stuff too well, truth be known. However, it's the fact that some people have picked up this and it's starting to now do the rounds on social media. Let me tell you exactly what it says. It says, breaking news, inside sources have confirmed that Kevin Nolan actually took full control of last night's match, obviously meaning Monday's match, in an attempt to show the board his capabilities as manager. Moyes had no input and had to sit back and let Nolan work. It's nonsense. I'm sorry, it's absolute nonsense. It really, really is. It's just not true. Look, do you know what? By spending a lot of time on it, I guess I'm giving credit to the rumour and giving it sort of breathing space it probably doesn't deserve. David Moyes would not do that. He wouldn't. I'm telling you now, David Moyes would do a Kirbishley and he'd walk out and he'd sue the club for interference on his job. He would not sit back and say, oh yeah, do you know what? I'm going to let the assistant manager take over. Do you know, it's just a nonsense. It really is. But anyway, there's a very good way that we know it's a nonsense because I'm about to discuss that now with Michael. And I'll tell you why, because Jarrod Bowen's done an interview basically saying quite how much input that David Moyes had in the training and in the build-up to the game. Look, if you haven't gone and seen it, go and check out the Jarrod Bowen interview. This is what myself and Michael, we just discussed it at the point where I read this news and I thought, you know what, I've got to go and give this some context. So with that all in mind, bearing in mind there's been what I think is a scurrilous rumour about David Moyes. Now you're going to hear what Jarrod Bowen's gone on to say. Myself and Michael are going to discuss it right now. If you want David Moyes out, to be fair, you don't really need you don't need false ammunition to get him out. I really don't think so. As I say, I think there's a natural break. I think it's coming. I think it'll happen at the end of the season. I'm pretty adamant he is not getting a new deal anyway. In the meantime, we don't have to blame him for everything. And you know what? Even when he starts to do well, we'll start blaming him for other things. I don't know. What about what about Junction 10 on the M25? The Wisley interchange? Just blame him for that as well. He doesn't need it. Honestly, David Moyes is quite capable of digging his own hole. Thank you very much about throwing stuff on top, adding fuel to the fire. Anyway, this now feeds into what Jarrod Bowen had to say about his own role, where I think it's fair to say Jarrod Bowen took charge. Funny enough, not Kevin Nolan. Jarrod Bowen took on a lot of responsibility and took on a lot of authority. And I think he, as much as anyone else, and not because of the hat-trick, is responsible for the win against Brentford. But it was done in conjunction with David Moyes. Listen to what we say. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Some people said it was Lucas Paqueta or Paquetá coming back that got the victory. Some people said it was David Moyes, me actually. Some people said it was David Moyes fighting for his life that got West Ham the victory. Some people said it was mutiny as well. However, Jarrod Bowen's given a little insight, and quite possibly it might have even been the quiet operator, Mr. Jarrod Bowen, who was responsible for kicking everybody up the arse, which enabled us not only to get the 4-2 win, but start like a greyhound out of the traps. Got Michael with me now. He just phoned me up earlier and he said, have you seen this interview with Jarrod Bowen? Talk us through it, mate.
Yeah, well, just I was watching last night all the YouTube, as you do, watching your stuff and all that, and I managed to find myself on the West Ham official YouTube channel. Was looking really for Moyes' interview after the game, and they hadn't uploaded that. But I wanted to cheer myself up a little bit. But no, jokes aside, I was watching Jarrod Bowen on there being interviewed, and I was really surprised, actually, the things he was saying. First of all, they was full of congratulations for the hat-trick and all the rest of it. And then as the last question of all, the interviewer said to him, so Jarrod, you've not got the armband, but I hear you've had to sort of play a part this week. And then as soon as he started talking, he was really switched on, looked really motivated. And he was saying, yeah, look, you know, we've been through a hard time. We've not had a win so far before tonight this year. And I feel like as one of the players now that have been here a bit of a while, I've been here 4 years, I sort of feel like I understand the club and I sort of understand what it's like to play in front of the West Ham fans. He said, I felt it was my responsibility to stand up and be counted. And if you listen to the interview, he goes on to say that he was one of the people that stood up and said before the game, we really need to try and start fast today, give the people something to cheer and get behind. You know, it's not been good enough. We need to make sure it was going on about being well drilled through the week and how he was basically calling on, in a sort of roundabout way, calling on the rest of the squad and the more senior players to stand up and be counted. And I called you because I'm in the same mind as you. I never really saw him as a leader, never really saw him as a captain. You've spoke before on previous videos about there's captains that lead by example, like the likes of David Beckham and stuff. And there's other more traditional sort of enforcers, you know, like the Roy Keane that stand up and shout. I never really pictured him being a pretty shy, quiet man. I never really pictured him being the sort to say, come on, we've got to get into these. You've got to pull your finger out. And I definitely saw a bit of that in the interview. And I said, what do you think? Because I definitely saw a different sort of side to him. There's definitely a leader in there. And it took me by surprise.
Yeah, I mean, it was really interesting. Thanks for, pointing it out to me. I mean, yeah, as you say, I'm no fan of the whole Beckham leader thing. I don't even think that's that. I just think it's being highly skilled. And I think if what you're going to do is look at a highly skilled player, well, you should be motivated by him anyway. You should be motivated to be that he's in your team, that you've got that sort of person around you. When I listened to that interview, and I wasn't aware of it before you made me aware of it, what I took it to mean was responsibility. And well, firstly, there's two parts here. We'll discuss the Kurt Zouma stuff in a second because it does, everything he said points to a question, which I'll ask you in a second, which is, should Kurt Zouma be basically stripped of the captaincy, really, which, harsh as it sounds, but maybe that would sort of make team spirit deteriorate. However, I don't think there is a natural captain at the club. I think Harry Maguire was supposed to be captain. I think we didn't sign him. So what you've got then, it creates a vacuum and you've got the absence of a natural leader. And I just wonder if it's got to the point where someone, and I still don't think Bowen is a natural leader, but what happens is when you've got that vacuum, somebody better take responsibility. And I just wonder if it's a case of him getting fed up and thinking, right, do you know what? He possibly knows himself, because he said it, I'm quiet. He possibly knows himself in a group of people, there should be people far more equipped to stand up and take responsibility and make authoritative decisions rather than himself. But I just wonder, I look at it as if he's just thought, do you know what? No one else is actually doing this. It might not come naturally to me, but if I don't do it, no one else is going to do it. And for him, which I think makes it even more impressive, for him to stand up, even though it might be that you know this, you're a singer for a living. You know what people who get nervous are like when they have to even just speak in front of people. You've had people in your life that would ask you, well, how do I give a best man speech and stuff like that? Stuff that comes naturally to you, you understand, petrifies some people. Even just talking in front of 10 people, some people, they're petrified by it. So I think it's even braver for him to stand up and actually say to everybody, oh, you do this, do this, do this. This is not acceptable. This is what the fans think. This is what we need to do. We need to start fast. I'm going to take responsibility. And that's what I think has actually happened here, mate. I think he has just stood up and he said, right, in the absence of anyone else, follow me. And it's not a case of him just leading. So I don't think the example actually is the hat trick. I think the example is him standing up there, doing a call to arms. He also mentioned the overseas players in his thing as well. I know what's expected. So I think that's really good. And if you can back that up, and that's the thing with the authority, if you can back up what you say with then a performance like that on the pitch, then I think people are going to be looking at it thinking, well, we probably better bloody pay attention to this guy.
Yeah, there's a bit of both there, then, isn't there? I'm the same as you. I still don't think he's got all the qualities as a captain. I was pleasantly surprised by the leadership. It just makes you think of the old adage, you never know how strong you are until you need to be. And I'm alluding to what you're saying there about in a crisis. In a crisis when something happens, something happens, it's not always the loudest person in the room that jumps up and springs into action, is it? Do you know what I mean? And it's those people when there's a sense of desperation, somebody better do something, and you're looking around and maybe it's me. I think you're bang right. I think that's exactly what Jarrod's done. Jarrod's had a look around. He's had a look at his chain of command in terms of time served, if you like. I know it sounds funny.
Yeah.
You noted it in the video. I've been here for 4 years now. I know what's expected of me. I know what's expected of the players to play in front of these people. He's looked around and he's seen that no one else is really stepping up to the mark. And so he's decided to do it. And like you say, with the other side of leading by example, he's just gone out there and banged out an hat-trick. So he's doing both there. He's overseeing players. He's talking to the younger. We've seen before about him talking to the younger players and him coaching them through, when they've trained with their first team. And he stepped up to the mark there and actually banged out an hat-trick and led by example as well. So for me, I quite like seeing that. I think that's positive.
Yeah, I think... we've seen this. The thing is, it's easy to think, there's been a mutiny, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's a mutiny. I don't think it reflects well on David Moyes. Let me just say that. I don't. The fact that the leadership has got to come from within the group, I don't think is particularly good. But he was praising Moyes. He was saying he drilled us really well to expect the long balls and the long throw-ins. But I expect that anyway. That's
off the ball work he was going on about.
Yeah, I wouldn't overly praise it's more damn indictment that clearly that hasn't been happening. So, but what do you think now? Because he sort of put himself up there. It was the in-house interviewer as well, by the way. So they framed the question there about the captaincy. What would you do with it, bearing in mind you've got the Zouma situation and possibly shouldn't even be playing Zouma?
No, this is it, and it's two faceted. This answer. For one, old happy Zouma may be a lovely bloke. I definitely don't think he's a leader.
No,
neither in vocally and being an enforcer, nor by example at the moment. And the second part is exactly that. He's broken, so I'm not even sure we want him in the team. It doesn't seem like that. Even if he wasn't playing, it doesn't even seem like your club captain kind of character. Look at towards the end of Noble when he was winding it up a little bit and making appearances off the bench. Beckhams was the on-field captain, but Noble was the club captain, and we knew that. And you knew that he was there behind the scenes, calling people up. Are you all right? The whole story with Lingard and put your phone away. He was still conducting everything. I don't see Zouma doing that, and I don't think the results. The results speak for themselves. I don't think that looks very good for his record as a captain either.
No.
I think it's time for a change. Like you say, there's not many natural leaders. I think you, like a lot of us, wondered if James Ward-Prowse was coming in to be captain because he was at Southampton. But I think that's another case of you see him and he's pretty good at talking to the ref and getting in there and negotiating, if you like. But he's another one. He's not really leading by example or that sort of character, that sort of Roy Keane character either. I feel like he was the captain at Southampton for time served again. So I think we're lacking a leader.
Sure,
we really are.
Yeah, I mean, the one final thing I'll just say on it, which is what I thought. I looked at him when I was listening to him in that interview. I thought to myself, do you know what? When he said about I've been here a long time, I was thinking, actually, you've just signed a new deal as well. 6 odd years or whatever? It's
7
long.
years, I think, yeah.
Was it 7 year long old deal? Mm. And he may well be looking at a lot of them and thinking, well, like Paqueta, you got a route out. You're probably leaving quite soon. He's probably looked at a couple of them whose contracts up at the end of this season. He's probably looking at Kudus there, who has just joined, but let's be fair, he's not going to be short of offers.
No.
And probably looked at himself and thought, if he had one out there, it was possibly Liverpool and Klopp, right? And he might be looking at this, just saying, right, look, I've committed to this club. And I think he's done so, and he really has. And he talks about the love for the fans. And I do think if he stays with the club, he's going to be someone like, James Collins. He's going to become a cult hero. Yeah. He might not have come from round here, but he's going to
bought into it.
Yeah, he's bought into it, definitely. And I just wonder if he's thought, well, you know what? I'm here for the long haul as well. And I want to be playing in Europe next season. Some of you might be off, but I've quite enjoyed doing this, and I've quite enjoyed. He's made it himself. It's funny, isn't it? Because nothing's been handed. So I'm not saying anything gets handed to any player, but he's come up the hard way. He's come up through lower leagues. He's come up through there. He's grafted. He suffered a relegation in the summer. In the summer, when people are having their breaks, he's running round his uncle's potato field
or something. Yeah.
Absolutely. Big old Thomas Souček, he's eating the potatoes. Jarrod Bowen's running through them, mashing them for him. And so I just think he's a grafter, and I think he's probably earned everything he's got. There will be people, he probably even looked at people like, if Bowen's a funny one, probably even looks at people like Saïd Benrahma, who's probably got more natural talent than him. Probably got, I bet on the training pitch, I bet he can, however many keep me up Bowen could do, I bet Benrahma could do more. I bet Benrahma could do tricks and all the rest of it. Yeah, it's hard work, determination, and it just always struck me as a guy that would spend extra time on the training. Well, we know this anyway, spends extra time on the training ground. And I just wonder if that has played into it at all. The fact that I'm sticking around, you lot might not be here, so it's another reason why I'm taking charge. Just wondering what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, what you're describing there sounds a lot like, with a work ethic, maybe not the most natural, Billy. What you're describing there sounds a lot like Lampard, doesn't it? Lampard Jr.
Yes, it does.
Going the extra mile. I'm just wondering if what he's saying, is he sticking his hand up then for the captaincy? Is he making himself a candidate, especially given what you're saying about with the contract he's just signed? Maybe he's looking around. Maybe previously he's come out and said, I'm a bit more of a quiet character. Is he convincing himself, cajoling himself? I've been here for 4 years now. I know what it takes. Is he stepping up to the mark there, in your opinion?
I wonder. I'll tell you, it's funny. Just while we've been speaking, I was thinking about responsibility. And I remember years ago, I worked for this building firm. And the guy that ran it, the foreman, everyone would get there and he would basically delegate everybody's jobs at the start of the day. And everyone really knew what they were meant to be doing, but that was just it. And then sometimes if we had a really good day, maybe at 3 o'clock, you say, do you know what, you lot, good day, pack up, off you go. His name was Trevor. And anyway, he was, I remember one day we were up there and everyone had got there and Trevor wasn't around. And very, very quickly, as he was always there, he was always the first person there, where's Trevor? And he wasn't answering his phone. And very, very quickly, there was a big group of us, and there was chippies, there was plumbers, there was all sorts. And very quickly, this group sort of formed. Oh, hold on, if he's not here, do you know what? And it was 9 o'clock, and he'd always been there at sort of 7:45. 9 o'clock, he still weren't there, and people were saying, do you know what? If he's not here by 10, I'm going home. I'm going to go home. Do you know what I mean? And people tried to call him. And I'll never forget it. We used to call this guy Elvis. And he basically turned around and said, well, why would anyone go home? We all know what we got to do. Clearly, something's happened to Trevor. He's obviously been delayed for some reason. We all know what we got to do. Why don't we do as much as we can do without him, rather than all using it as an excuse to go, I was young. I was just a quiet one. You know what I mean? To be fair, I was a bit too scared to go home anyway. But do you remember Elvis taking, it's not his name, Elvis, by the way, but everyone called him Elvis. I remember Elvis taking charge and saying, right, let's go and do this. And it's just responsibility, which is, do you know what? Someone needs to step up here. I might not be the gaffer. I'm not being paid any more wages than any of you lot. Yeah. I mean, he was actually the vinyl floor fitter, funny enough. And he just said, you know what? Let's go and do it. And I wonder if even if it's not a push for captaincy, I do wonder if it is just him saying, I would be surprised if probably Bowen's the type of guy that wants a proper captain to be bought. But I reckon he's looked at the situation. He's probably seen a little bit of a lack of leadership from above as well. And I don't know why that would be. He's probably seen the managers in a bit of a pickle. I don't think that Bowen hates David Moyes. I think David Moyes has been really, really good for Jarrod Bowen's career. David Moyes it's easy to beat up on Moyes and just say everything's crap and everything he does is useless and he's this and he's no good. But not for everyone. He's taken Bowen from non-league and got him and got him, and Bowen scored a goal in a final in European competition. He's got into the England squad. All that stuff's happened under David Moyes. So you may well find that Jarrod Bowen is not. Jarrod Bowen's never said it. Basically, all the bad things you hear about Jarrod Bowen towards David Moyes have all been said by somebody else. Jarrod Bowen's not said any of it. I just wonder, though, he's not going to throw Moyes under the bus. I just wonder if he's basically just started to think, you know what, I'm just going to take charge here. And mate, do you know what? I think that's real good testament to him, really.
Absolutely. And the last point is another thing to consider. Is he deciding to pull his socks up and start delegating? Not only because he's here for another 7 years potentially, although, he'll be brought out of that one if he does well. His England place is also a factor. We've got a tournament coming up. So there's lots of reasons, professional pride, personal pride. There's lots of reasons why he would want to get things and everyone stepping up to the plate. And I like the way he did that yesterday.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Yes, I can't. Yeah, it's him saying, I can't afford this. All you lot. Basically, he's probably seen Saka, who's raised his level significantly, and he's probably looked at this. I can't be doing this. I cannot be doing this. Fall into 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, basically going down. I think that's a really good point. I've got my England place to think of here. And do you know what? And everybody else should be thinking like that as well. I know it's different for Paquetá because of the betting stuff and all the rest of it. But everybody else should be thinking, because there's a ton of internationals in there. But I think maybe because England, who are who they are, there's such high levels of competition there. He's far from guaranteed to be in the squad. Kudus ain't got to worry. Kudus in the squad. Souček's in the squad. So there's a lot of them that are already in the squad. But I think that's a really, really good point. Anyway, let us know what you think in the comments below. Thank you, Michael, for bringing that to my attention. And I will catch you up. We're going to go and record a video on Patreon now, aren't we?